Hello there, my name is Ben, and a very warm welcome back to Play the Game Central. Now today I'm going to be bringing you a new map idea. This is only a theory, and this isn't a map that we're going to be seeing in Black Ops 2. I'm not giving you information in a weird way to kind of, help you with that. But what I am going to do is explain something which would have solved all of our problems, would have made the story correct, would have ended a story, brought you back full circle, because that's what we're seeing a lot of in this story, is this never-ending infinite loop and these continuums, which make this story not only confusing, but at the same time fairly interesting as well. So I'm going to be bringing you something now called Afterlife. Now, if you've seen my Sanctum and Atlantis videos, ignore Atlantis because it's not going to happen. Don't ignore Sanctum. And this is something that won't happen again in Black Ops 2, but would resolve a lot of issues, and is probably the best idea I've had thus far. But the issue with it is, I know the majority of the community are going to hate it because it's solo only.
Solo only.
That's an issue. I know that, I'm not stupid. We all love playing team stuff, but it's really the main incentive of this map and the main reasoning for this map has to be done in solo. So let me paint a really detailed picture for you now. There will be pictures on screen which kind of help with what I'm trying to say, but like Sanctum, it might help if you closed your eyes and got into that zone like we did before. And I'm going to explain to you the premise, the story, and why this is happening. Now, before we do that, you have to know the date. The date of this map is 2089. 2089, so it's a long time on from now, but not that long time if you consider kind of how these larger events happen. And Annihilation is complete. The entire race is now defunct. They are zombies, or they were zombies. Now, there's an idea at stake here. In every country there was a protocol set to end civilization, or the dead civilization, and the protocol was actually going on a long time before humans became extinct. And essentially in every country around the world there'd be these huge, almost pen, kind of like they keep like animals in, huge kind of metal barriered or metal walled pens, circular pens, and in the middle they'd artificially create pheromones that smelt like meat. So all of these zombies would run into these pens, the doors would automatically shut, all done automatically, no humans were necessary because obviously they preempted that, well, not all humans would exist then. So the doors would shut, and one by one these zombies would be forced against a wall. The pressure of all of the zombies would force them against the back wall, where they'd be literally automated into straps. They'd be strapped against what is essentially like a factory line. If you imagine those kind of factory lines like you see on How It's Made, where they're kind of making bottles, that kind of very automated process. They're strapped on like that. They are taken up vertically into the air, at which point a bolt is pushed into the back of their brainstem, and they become nothing because they were already dead. So you know what I mean? They no longer have the ability to be active. Now, that's the basic premise. After they are inactive, let's call it that, they are dropped into a pit, and that's pretty much it. And who knows what happens after that. Now, that's the basic premise. This would all happen in the opening scene, or in the opening loading screens maybe, because there'd have to be more than one. I was imagining more like a kind of picture book that showed you what was happening, and showed you the history of why this happened. Now, the really interesting thing, and the reason that you're in solo, is that what I was describing then was 20 years ago. The last of all of the undead and all of humanity existed 20 years ago. There's very little wildlife in terms of animals as well, because obviously undead, if it has a pulse, they will rip it apart. Very little kind of left to forage and survive on. You are the last remaining human. This is taking place in America, but these systems are taking place in every single country all over the world. So you can guarantee that the world is pretty much dead, apart from you're that one spark of energy that is left, but it's been 20 years of it, and those machines are still powered. There's no zombies left to go in them, but they're all still there. So you are looking down, you find one of these areas, you've known about it for a long time, in fact, and you look down into this huge pit where once there were a lot of zombies. They kind of got siphoned down into lava pits, very deep in the earth, and you kill yourself. You commit suicide. This is your funeral. This is the end of you. You throw yourself into the pit, and that is the end. But it isn't quite the end, because what you find is that you drop down through this crater in the earth, this huge area in the earth where once all of these dead bodies were. You fall down through it, through these little planes, and you fall down into a church. You fall through the roof of a church. Now I will show up a picture here, hopefully, whereby you're going to be seeing a church with loads of murals all over the wall, like a domed wall. And you fall through a central kind of skylight, because that's the only light that you can see this far down, is the light of the earth. You can still see it. It's not that light, because obviously the earth is stormy and weird, but you can see what's shining through. You can see light shining through. And you see all these paintings around you. Now what you can't see in this picture, but I have it in my head in inverted commas, is that a huge portion of this painting has been blackened out with black paint, and instead a new kind of painting has arrived where you see the ghost of a little girl and a real life man with a magnifying glass. He is trying to do something down here. He has a purpose. That's pretty much that. And you find that when you look down, this is all still in the loading screen, by the way, none of this is in the game yet. When you look down, you are standing on loads and 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 loads of bones. You are standing on the remains of the zombie apocalypse. This was the end of humanity, that all came through this one skylight and fell into this huge room that has this kind of church-like appeal. Now, you leave this area and you walk down out of a door, because this is essentially an underground church. You go out, and at this point the loading screen ends and that area is no longer accessible. When you spawn in, you don't spawn in with... No, you don't. You spawn in purgatory, sorry. And then you go and revive this character who is on the floor that looks quite familiar to you, but you don't know why. And you say in ghost mode, this person looks familiar to me. And you go over and you revive this person who is just lying on the floor. And then you think, oh, what's going on here? And this has no religious connotations, by the way. So please leave that at the door. Please don't bring that in here, because it's going to get religious in a minute. And I'm cool with that, don't worry. I'm not going to say anything horrible. But let's just get through this, because this is a really fucking good idea and I really want you to hear it. So you go in and you revive this guy, and you're now in this area that, for want of a better word, is meant to be the afterlife, but you're not dead. This is hell. You are in hell, but there's one major difference. There's no lava, there's no fiery pits. There's no one that you can see immediately. There is no kind of slaves cranking rocks and all this stuff. There is no huge kind of lava waterfalls. Hell is defunct. Hell it looks grey, it looks tired and miserable. It looks essentially like a set of caves with huge open caves. This was meant to be a place that people were worked into eternity to absolutely destroy every single thing, because they were horrible, horrendous people. This was the place for those people, but it's not here anymore. Or at least you don't think it is. Now, the interesting thing about this map is there's no spawns. There's no window spawns. This is hell. They are all ground spawns, and almost all of the areas in hell have bones underneath you. You can see, or remains of people and things like that, which actually have a few Easter eggs in them. That might have a few Easter eggs in them, in inverted commas. But there is a test. There's two tests, actually, two sets of tests that you have to do in hell. And the first, two sets of Easter egg quests, if you want to call them that. The first is to find out what happened here, and as you move down into hell, obviously you're surviving rounds at this point because there's zombies spawning out of the ground, and these zombies are wearing kind of because these zombies obviously go back, or these people in hell go back medieval times and before that, so there's a very, very wide mix of tattered clothes, but from kind of suits, kind of, like workers' suits like we see in kind of Call of the Dead when you use the villain on a zombie, that kind of thing, to medieval times and before, even back to there's some hints at cavemen and stuff like that. There are some things like this that go back among various cultures, and it's a very mixed idea, and obviously because it spans such an incredible amount of time in theory, because this isn't real, but in theory. So you move your way through and down hell, down quite a few sets of stairs, and obviously you have to buy the barricades to get through these things at this point. But I'm not going to talk about the gameplay because it's fairly similar to what you know and love in Zombies. So I'm going to talk mainly about the story. Now, the first Easter egg starts to get explained to you from this ethereal voice that you're hearing in your head, like the same voice that told you that you recognize this guy that you're reviving at the beginning is telling you about what happened here and why hell is defunct. And it's really interesting because there was they refer to him as the man. They keep calling him they keep calling him the man. And when the man came, he brought a team of people, and by this time hell was already defunct, but he brought a team of people, and they were trying to find something. They were trying to find an artifact in hell. This sounds so crazy, but they actually came down, and it looks like a kind of archaeological dig site where up some of these walls there's scaffolding. They were trying to chisel away, trying to find things in hell. Down in hell, they were there trying to find artifacts in hell. Now, what it turned out is that this man was Ludwig Maxis. This man was here for a specific person, but as you unravel the Easter egg and do the steps, you find out why he was here. I must also say that you're getting to round 7 by now, that you're getting the first glimpses of this storyline. And at round 7, you're presented by, actually every couple of rounds, you're presented by a different demon. There's 3 of them in total. There is Glut, there is Cerberus, who is a 3-headed dog, which gives you a little bit of leeway as to why Fluffy might have happened, if you're thinking that this might have been a map that kind of got cancelled. Then that was interesting. And then there is, what's the last one? Oh, then there is the Virgin. And the Virgin basically looks like Pamela Anderson on steroids, and she is fucking ugly. Not Pamela Anderson, well, yeah, and she is, okay. But she's supposed to look incredibly kind of like sexy, essentially, but also incredibly dead. So, there's that kind of twist on it. And they all do different things, and 100% accuracy on each grants you with a perk, a max ammo, and a doppelganger. Now, this is interesting, the doppelganger. Now, many of you people will know what that is, and when you walk over this little image of a man in the green, like you get max ammos and insta-kills, when you walk over it, behind you lays a stone statue of you, just standing there. That's all it does, but it takes about 30 seconds for the zombies to destroy that statue. So it essentially acts as a kind of like a monkey bomb, but for quite a long time, and it can be particularly useful. And maybe there might just be an Easter egg upon which point you might need to use one of those at a certain interval. But let's talk more about Maxis. Maxis was there for a specific reason, and as you unravel this Easter egg, the final couple of steps, you realise that Maxis was there to find an artifact because he'd heard in Germanic, what do they call it? I don't know, in the Germanic archives there is a word that I can't remember, but in German mythology, if you want to call it that, there was this artifact that you could go and you could claim from hell. The champions, the Germanic champions, could claim this thing, and then they could get one wish. That was the one thing, one wish from this artifact. Now, I've Googled this, I can't find it anywhere, but I think this may have just been part of this story, might be part of the story that I'm making up off the top of my head, which is incredibly detailed. But, yeah, and he's there to find this artifact. Now, his entire purpose for being in hell is that Samantha is obviously still trapped in Ether, and he is getting to the point where he's quite an old man, actually, because he's actually not dead, but you don't know this. Actually, he might be dead now, but at this time that this map in my head might be going on, he's actually not dead. This is so confusing for you at home. I'm sorry for this, but it's because my head is telling me not to say things at the same time I'm trying to tell you what the map is. You go there, and his entire purpose was to find this artifact, and he got one wish, and his one wish was to replace Samantha in the Ether. So Samantha would be brought back to life, and he would spend the rest of his eternal life in damnation in the Ether. That was the entire purpose, which is fucking cool. I mean, that's a pretty big sacrifice for Maxis to make. That's pretty damn cool. So he's not all of a bad guy, but he kind of is a bit. Actually, is a lot. But that's really cool, and I think that's brilliant. Now this, as you're kind of going around this kind of archaeological site, it's huge, by the way, and it looks like hell, like this huge gaping caverns. There's like mouths where like it's like full of bodies and stuff. It looks horrendous, but it's not on fire, and it's not working. The second Easter egg comes as soon as you finish that first quest Easter egg. A door appears. Now there are a few doors in hell, believe it or not, and the first one looks more like a vault door, and this door only spawns once you've completed that Easter egg. Now the Max's Easter egg to complete is very easy. There's only 5 steps, and you can do that pretty quick, actually. The second one is slightly more obtuse, and I can't actually say what you have to do. All right, okay. You go into this vault door, you open this door, all you have to do is press square and it will go in. And then you're presented with a cutscene, because obviously we're in solo, we can get a lot of cutscenes in, so we're going to be getting a lot of story, which is brilliant for those who love story. And in the middle of this arena-styled room, and I found a really good picture on Google which kind of really emulates this, is a man in a smoker's jacket. And just a man, you can't see him, it's just a shadowy figure, and you go over to him in the cutscene, you walk up to him, and you explain, you ask him, why is there no slavery? Why is there no damnation here? Why is there nothing? What is left? And you're screaming at him. You want to know. You want this. You want this for yourself because you're such a horrendous person. You've come here to kill yourself. You have come to hell for the rest of eternity. Why is it not working? Why is hell not open? And he gives you an answer, which is that hell has no purpose now, because on the ground it is hell, in those kind of simple words, which kind of makes sense, because there's literally no purpose for hell, because A, they're not humans anymore anyway, and B, it's probably much worse on Earth than it is in hell. You know, trying to survive like that would be an absolute fucking nightmare, I imagine. Not that I ever wanted it to happen, because it couldn't happen, but yeah, he explains that hell has no reason now, and so they gave up. Satan gave up. Now this has huge religious connotations. Please leave them at the door. That's not what we're doing here. This is a really fucking good map now. It's just such a shame it was just solo mode. But this is the best map that would ever have been made. I promise you this. But you convince Satan that the humans on Earth have found a way to crack time, to open time, to go to any particular place. And he says that he knows this, and that he's used this for specific reasons, to send assailants to Earth. And by that I'm assuming the demons in Alcatraz, or maybe Fluffy, those kind of emulations of hellhounds. Hellhounds, it's kind of in the word. To do that, he's actually sent them back. And what you agree with Satan, believe it or not, is that he could get hell back. He could have hell back. He could have it exactly as it was. Incredible amounts of murderers, rapists, paedophiles, all these things in hell, and cranking away on rocks again, and loving it, brilliant. Not loving it, hating it, fucking hating it, but lava. It would look like hell again. He could get that back if he'd let you access the rift. and let you use the rift, which Maxis and Richtofen in the games that we're playing are only just beginning to repair. By the time that we're in 2089, it's now kind of defunct, and he will let you have one more chance. And so what he does is he asks you to go and save these 3 incredibly abhorrent people that he has locked away in rooms. And to do this, obviously this is getting into later rounds now, this is getting difficult to do, and originally I think behind these rooms there was a little kind of demon that you'd have to, I think one of them may have been like a denizen kind of thing, but there are little kind of mini things you have to do on the way to opening these doors, and these doors for these 3 people only spawn, or you can only see them once you've actually gone into that vault to see Satan. So he sends you off on another quest egg. This one's slightly more weird. Now, you go up, the first one's in this kind of cathedral looking room, because it's very churchy hell, much more than these pictures I'm showing you are, but it's very kind of churchy. It looks very, very religious. It has religious connotations, obviously, but you go into one of these rooms, the first room, and as soon as you open the door, a man runs out, and the same thing happens with the 2 other doors, but there may have been more to it in the first place, but you've actually got to find these doors and survive long enough to find these doors, because obviously there's no crawlers in hell. That doesn't work quite. The actual tech for zombies don't work the same as they do on Earth. It's a bit different. And you open the door, and behind each of these doors is Takeo, Nikolai, and Richtofen, and you are Tank, but you didn't know this. The whole time during hell, you had literally no idea that this was happening. And as soon as you open the door, this person runs out in a kind of ethereal looking ghostly, you can tell it's Takeo, Edward and Nikolai, but they're not paying any attention to you. They run straight towards Satan, so they run down all the stairs through the little winding caves, and they run straight into Satan, into his chest. That's exactly what they do. They go straight into him. And this happens with all 3 characters, but at the same time you're getting this ethereal voice telling you who they are, what they did, why they are in hell, and why they are so awful. And they are, if you think about it, these characters are essentially war criminals. I mean, all of them are pretty horrendous. But yeah, this is what you're kind of left with, and you realise that you're Tank. I think that's brilliant. Tank has survived. He's the last human, and he's come back to reclaim. And so the very end, Satan gives you a key to find one last door. And you go and find it. You actually go back up into the original church that you've spawned in, the one where I told you all this kind of, rich, illustrious paintings and stuff like that. You are actually allowed to go into that area now, because when you spawned it was blocked off. Now you can go into that area, and you use the key on a door that's in that church, and you can see that door as soon as you spawned in, but you can never get into it. It says this door is locked. And you use that key, you walk into the room, and on the table there is this artifact, and you look down at it. You just press square on it, and that's the end basically. But you realise that with this artifact that Maxis was trying so hard to find, when you press square on it, you get the wish that Maxis always wanted. And when you press square on it, you spawn at round 1 on the prototype version of Nachtan Toten, which is essentially a slightly better version of the one that's in transit. On Earth, in 1941, I think it is, you get to spawn on Earth at that time period to try and change things, but you don't know that you've done that, because during this ethereal trance, this transformation from 2089 hell, when you've actually gone into the rift, it's wiped your memory. And so this is your damnation. The entire storyline that we knew and loved was this incredible repeat. It was a never-ending continuum. It was a grandfather paradox that we could never complete, because when all of these when these 4 heroes of mine, they're fucking amazing, heroes land back in Nachtan Toten, they don't know why they're there, and yet they continue. And that is the Afterlife. That is it. So sorry, when you're in NACT, you get to play, rounds of NACT without mule kick. This is back kind of, it looks like the Black Ops 2 version of NACT that's hidden in transit, but it has all of the abilities of NACT Untoten, the original one in World at War, not the Black Ops one with mule kick. And that is one of the best things I've ever made up, in inverted commas. I think it's incredible, and I knew that the community wouldn't like it because it's solo only, and I know that's going to be a problem. But I hope you've enjoyed this kind of me talking. I don't know if you like this idea. Tell me if you hate it, but what a storyline. What a storyline. Look at the kind of things that we could change, the lines that we could draw under huge pages of work that would complete the storyline of Call of Duty World at War and Call of Duty Black Ops. Thank you for joining me. I hope you like Afterlife, and fingers crossed that we'll see it in a future game, because that would be pretty cool. Thank you very much, guys, and I will see you in the next video. Goodbye.